So many people look at successful people and they either ascribe all of it to their hard work. If you were going to ask me to weight it, probably a couple percentage points what you do and a lot what you're given.
Today I get a chance to have a conversation with my good friend David Karandish, co-founder of Answers.com, and his team went on to sell Answers for nearly $1 billion. Your dates and Answers, right? So you had about 6 businesses you started beforehand. How did you get into that business?
Sometimes there are shots you only see when you're in the game. You can't see them in the stands. You can't see them in the sideline. You can't see them in the announcer's box. You can only see that shot when you're on the court with the ball in your hand and the clock running.
Oftentimes I wonder, do we do entrepreneurs a disservice because it's highlighted are all the successes and not the failures, right? And so I kind of wonder if it makes this.
I think we've all probably seen those memes where they show that picture of what people think success looks like versus what it actually is. And I feel like it's so absolutely true.
AI is rapidly learning. What advice would you give to a 20-year-old? What should they be learning? What should they be spending their time doing to be prepared for the world to come?
In a world where anyone has the tools and capabilities to build software, if you're young, you have to learn how to use this technology to go build things. If you want to be an entrepreneur, don't wait till you're out of college and you've got student loans to pay back, deeper relationships, or start early. Start in high school, start in college, so you can get your reps in and you can go do your hat business equivalent. Get that out of your system before you go and graduate.
Welcome to the Make It Matter podcast. This is the place that we have conversations with people who are building, leading, and competing at the highest level, but doing so in a way that actually affects real change. Because it's not about just being seen doing great things. It's about the people who are changed because you were there. Today, I get a chance to have a conversation with my good friend, David Karandish. David is a nationally recognized entrepreneur, investor, and technology leader known for building innovative companies that transform how people access information and get work done. He was the co-founder of Answers.com. It was one of the most widely used question and answer platforms. And under his leadership as CEO, he grew it to a global destination serving millions of people. And his team went on to sell Answers for nearly $1 billion. Today, David is the founder and CEO of Capacity. Capacity is an AI-powered platform that helps organizations automate support, improve productivity, and deliver faster answers to employees and customers. His work today sits at the forefront of artificial intelligence, automation, and the future of work. Dave and I also share a couple other things in common. We're both graduates of the illustrious Washington University. Go Bears. He is a devoted husband, father of 4, soon-to-be author, and also a believer and someone who allows his faith to drive the decisions and the actions in the way that he cares for people. So, David, thank you so much for making time today.
Thanks for having me here.
I'm excited. All right. So listen, we got a lot to talk about, but I got to start with a really important question. You're a sports guy, a sports fan. You and I have been in the throes of the trenches of coaching elementary school girls basketball. And I think I know how you're going to answer this question as a result of that, but you never know. So I got to start with who's the GOAT, MJ or LeBron?
Clearly it's LeBron. No, I'm just kidding with you, man. No.
I was thinking, hey, we're gonna have to.
It's 100% MJ.
Good. Okay.
I knew that was gonna cause a rise.
Yeah. You might. Well, based on how you answered that, you probably have folks in the comment section cheering, and you've also alienated some people. But that's just how that question is designed to work. But
LeBron's amazing, but it's got to go to MJ.
I agree 100%. And I asked that question because I think it's revealing about where a person falls on that decision. But also because, man, again, this may seem like high praise, but there's some elements around MJ's story that I think that actually speak to your story, right? Because, everyone knows he won 3, retired, and came back and did it again. And in a lot of ways, you've done something very similar, right? You have accomplished what every entrepreneur dreams of starting a company, building it, and selling it for almost $1 billion, right? And with that comes a lot of accolades and a lot of benefits. You take time off, and one could argue that you're back in the game and about to potentially do it again, right? Which is really exciting. So I'm eager to hear, yes, that's what you're doing, but I'm really eager to get behind the motivation and the why. So we're going to get to that as well. But I'd love to go back a little bit because you're here where you are because there is a larger story. And when people hear about your journey, when they hear about your story, what do they typically miss? What do they typically get wrong?
I think we've all probably seen those memes where they show that picture of what people think success looks like versus what it actually is. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's so absolutely true, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. I spent a lot of time just learning and trying different things early on in my career before we ever had any major financial success. And so one piece of advice I'd give to startup entrepreneurs who are particularly early on is like, get a lot of exposure to a lot of different areas early and then cull over time. I think a lot of times people come in and they think their first idea is going to be their best one. I started 6 different companies before we started answers.com, all in high school and college, and they were, fine. But what I learned from all of those businesses, we helped bring into our time at answers.com. And so if you ever seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire, where the guy goes on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire India show, and the whole show is like the culmination of his life experience. I think very much in entrepreneurship, a lot of times you're leveraging what you've done, even in previous businesses or previous projects, for the next project. Yeah. And so when people look at the end, they don't see all the things that failed up until that point. Yeah.
And for you, so I hear the theme that you, like you said, started 6 businesses before Answers, some of those in high school. So like, did you know pretty early on that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur into my early teens. Like I knew I wanted to build something. I loved the idea of taking a concept, a dream, business plan, and going and putting it into action. The thing that I was really blessed to be a part of is by growing up in the late 90s, this was one of the first times where technology entrepreneurship was at the forefront. So if you want to go build a physical building, you need foremen and you need time and you need labor and you need materials. But if you wanted to build a website, you could go do that on your own. And so the rise of the internet was happening right at the time where I was going into end of high school, beginning of college. And so I got to be a part of one of the biggest changes in our economy today.
Got it. Well, and I think that's important because sometimes there's just a timing factor that no one can give. You can't lay claim to just being born at the right time. But I think there's also another piece of this because there were a lot of other people during that same period of time who were exposed to similar, opportunities, but didn't necessarily view them and take advantage of them the same. So I guess what my question as I think about entrepreneurship, is it just something that you feel like you just naturally just gravitated toward? Was it something that was modeled to you? You could have easily just said, hey, I'm going to pursue just a career and take a job. So what do you think were some of the things that actually sort of pushed you that direction?
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said earlier. If I look at all the things I had no control over, I was born in the United States. That's a great hand to be given globally. I had 2 educated parents who love me very much. Not everybody can say that. I was born right at the time where technology was hitting the web. So it was a unique time. My dad was an electrical engineer, and so I had access to computers pretty early on. And at the same time, I got to, went to great schools. I was born in St. Louis. There's just so many things I had no control over. And then, so if you say it's like 98, 99% of things completely outside of my control, then it's like, well, what are you going to do with that last 1 or 2%? And I feel like, so many people look at successful people and they either ascribe all of it to their hard work, which I think, again, there's a lot outside of your control, or they ascribe none of it to hard work and they treat it entirely as luck. And I don't think that's the case either. But I think it's probably, if you're going to ask me to weight it, it's probably a couple percentage points what you do and a lot what you're given.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And because from the outside looking in, people can easily draw so many different conclusions as to why this and that. And so that's why I love having these conversations, because the reality is it's always usually a combination of both. And in our humility, we can acknowledge that a lot of this has to do with circumstances that are way beyond our control, which is
really interesting stat I heard if you're a male born in the United States and you're I'm about 6 foot, between 6'2", 6'3", but right about my height, there's a 1 in 200,000 chance you will go on to play in the NBA. If you are 7 foot tall or taller in the United States, there's a 1 in 3 chance you will play in the NBA. Yeah. That doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of work that you have to do. Like, you don't just get in the NBA for free, but there are definitely some height advantages that the Allen Iversons of the world have somehow overcome that significantly stack your deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's important. I think being able to acknowledge those things are really important, because that's the truth. That's in reality. I think even with that, however, there is still an element of this where you are who you are and you're wired a certain way. And yes, you have these opportunities, but there's still an element of hard work, some couple of percentage points. So I think the question I would ask next is, I get a chance to sit with a lot of highly talented people in business and in sport. And there always seems to be like a point in time where they sort of realize that, like, I'm a little different. I'm wired differently, right?
My wife keeps telling me that all the time, but that's okay.
Yeah. And so I'm curious for you, like, at what point in your life did you start to sort of realize that, wait, I'm a little different than others. I'm wired a little differently.
I think one thing I realized pretty early on was that I have this interesting mix of being very competitive, but also having a low cost of failure. Okay. And so what I mean by that is, like, you think about some careers, right? If you're what's the Chris Rock joke? Like, if you're a pilot that lands 99% of your flights, you're going to kill thousands of people, right? Right. So there's some jobs where you need better than 99% success rate in order to do what you need to do. A baseball player that hits 300, could be a Hall of Famer though, right? And I think what ends up happening is our educational system is designed so that you get 100 on the test and you fill in the Scantron and you follow the rules and you do the right things. And and again, there's a time and place for that. But in the world of entrepreneurship, like, most of the things you do are going to fail. Like, it's not even like a bat at 300. Like, if I bat 50, that's pretty good. And so the same reason that I would be a not great pilot or maybe not great brain surgeon is also the same reason why entrepreneurship is a good fit, because I can de-risk and lower the cost of failure, lower the probability of failure, but failure isn't crushing.
Yes.
And so I think there are a lot of people who work just as hard as your average entrepreneur, but they can't handle the rejection or the failure that's associated with most entrepreneurial activities.
Yeah, and it's inherent, it's baked into the entire process. Oftentimes I wonder, like, do we do entrepreneurs a disservice because it seems that what gets the gets highlighted are all the successes and not the failures, right? And so I kind of wonder if it creates this sort of, false narrative around what the journey actually looks like, which is why I love having these conversations. But I think for you, my question would be, do you think that was like being comfortable with failure and risk? Is that something that you sort of like entered into the world with a higher capacity for, no pun intended? Or do you think it was something that you like grew in, like a muscle that you sort of strengthened over time?
It's probably a little bit of both. We kind of grew up middle-class family in the burbs. And then my dad had started a few businesses, didn't pan out. My parents got divorced. They split up. We lost our house. We kind of hit rock bottom and then built back up from there. And so I think circumstantially, I realized that, like, what is actually important and what's not important early on. And if you can limit what you need to a very small number of things, then everything else is gravy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think circumstantially, I grew up in a place where, if you've hit rock bottom pretty early, then you can only go up from there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, even outside of that, I can remember even as a kid telling my friends, well, nothing is stopping us from doing this or that.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's such a common thing that I see, not only in my own experience in my own life as well, but it's almost to the point that risk looks and feels differently when you don't have very much, right? It's kind of like, well, I have a greater appetite for this because I see all the potential upside. And if it doesn't work out, I can't really go any lower, right? So that sort of changes that perspective. And I want to get into your story a little bit more. But I want to jump ahead a little bit because I'm curious, like you're in a different place now, right? And so, one could argue you actually have more to risk at this point in time. So like, how do you think about risk now versus when you were, starting out?
Yeah, I think the first thing that a lot of people get mixed up is what I'll call the difference between risk and uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So uncertainty are the things that could happen to you that you have no control over, right? A tornado could come in and knock down a house. Like there's not much you can do about that. Certain things can happen that just happen out of the blue. So there's uncertainty, and then there's risk where, if I can use a poker analogy, you're deciding when to bet and when not to bet. And it doesn't mean that you know what all the cards are, but it means based on the hand you have, you think there's a good enough shot for you to go play and go take the pot. I think people tend to confuse the two, and they let the uncertainty keep them from taking calculated risks.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the other, a couple of misnomers that are out there when it comes to being a leader in some capacity, especially I have to explain this to my team a lot. Oftentimes decisions are made usually in areas of when there's uncertainty and when there's a lot of things that are not purely defined. And I think a lot of times we're making decisions off of probability, right? And so that's another piece of this that also often seems not clear when you think about an entrepreneur's journey. You hear the stories in the movies, and all of a sudden there's an aha moment and the person like knows exactly what to do. Has that been how you've approached decision making, or has it been something different?
Well, I think there are a couple different types of decisions you can make. I think Jeff Bezos talks a lot about like one-way doors and two-way doors. Like the decision you make it, and it's like there's no going back from that. And there's decisions where you walk in, you walk back out if you need to. I also think one of the meta skills that I've spent a lot of time working on, I'm trying to get my team to kind of build up their muscle in, is thinking about problems in terms of three buckets. You've got your problem describers, who are really good at saying what the problem is. And you need that. If you don't have the problems well described, a lot of bad things happen. Then you got your problem solvers. These are your engineering types. These are my people. Who can go in, you give them a problem, they're going to go wrestle it to the ground. But I think the hardest skill to develop is actually being a good problem selector. Like which problems are worth solving in what order over what time. And that can happen at the micro level down to an individual product set of features, but that can happen at a macro level to like, what business should I start?
Yeah.
What job should I take? What career should I pursue? And so figuring out how to select the right problems is one of those really important meta skills I want my kids to take the torch and get better than me at.
Yeah. Makes sense. So that actually leads me, I want to go back a little bit. Thinking about selecting the right problem to solve. I want to go back to your days at Answers, right? Yeah. So when you were in that role and pursuing that, I know you said you had about 6 businesses you started beforehand. How did you get into that business? Walk me through a little bit around. Did you just wake up one day like, aha, this is it? Was it like a gradual progress? How did you get into that business in that space?
No, good question. And I think this leads to something that's kind of another kind of meta framework that I've thought about a lot. It's that, continue with the basketball analogy. Sometimes there are shots you only see when you're in the game. Mm-hmm. You can't see them in the stands. Mm-hmm. You can't see them in the sideline. You can't see them in the announcer's box. You can only see that shot when you're on the court with the ball in your hand and the clock running. And so in the case of Answers, I had a buddy of mine come to me and he was like, David, I want to start a magazine for celebrity fashions. And I was like, I don't know anything about magazines. I know even less about celebrities and I know even less about fashion. So let's do it. Right? Right. Again, these are the things you can do when you're in college and your cost of failure is zero because you're a student, right? And so we ended up selling a bunch of, you remember those Von Dutch hats? I don't know if you remember this. We were like one of the top resellers of Von Dutch hats for 15 minutes. But around that same time, Google launched their Google AdSense product where you could now monetize your website with the same ads that would show up on Google. Now they're everywhere. At that time, it was pretty novel. And so my other buddy and I started building out content for these celebrity fashions. We actually did better monetizing the content than we did selling the hats. And so we had interned at another company here in town called Monster Commerce. And we said, hey, look, like we're building this kind of celebrity fashion portal. This is pretty interesting. They then took all of their, they were a online merchant for doing shopping cart software. So if you wanted to sell products online, kind of before Shopify, you would work with these guys. They took all their products, put them together into a comparison shopping engine. We helped them with a marketing platform for that. And then when we graduated, we're like, oh, we want to build a comparison shopping engine. And they're like, great, good luck. You guys don't have any products. So I took a one-way flight to California, crashed to my aunt's house, and just started calling every possible company I could think of, calling a meeting to go get comparison shopping listings. So we ended up starting our comparison shopping company, Announce Media. And then a couple of years in, we needed content for all the different categories we wanted to go into. So we had a health site and a travel site and an auto site and a real estate site. And so we started adding questions and answers to those sites. And we got about 10,000 questions and answers there. And then we were like, well, man, I would really love it if we could find a company that has gone really deep in this Q&A space. That led us to go acquire answers.com, take it private, merge it with the company we started. I kicked that process off when I was 26 years old. So it's just a wild ride. But to answer your question, one of the big things that I noticed in my time at Answers was that it was all about leveraging that last poker table into the next one.
Yes.
So we wouldn't have bought answers.com had we not added the Q&A to the sites. We wouldn't have the Q&A had we not launched comparison shopping. We wouldn't have done that had we not gotten that comparison shopping feed. We wouldn't have done that had we not interned at this company. We wouldn't have done that had we not launched this fashion blog. So like you can see how these things all line up.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's a beautiful story. And I think that's just so true. And again, that's the piece of this that always gets left out, right? It almost seems like every success story starts with an entrepreneur that like had this brilliant brainstorming session with a whiteboard and they mapped out exactly how everything goes. But the truth is far from that. Like this is, completely like walking by faith. Like, I think about the verse, the proverb that says the mind of man directs his way, but the mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps, right? Exactly. It's this idea that like, God is directing steps, but you got to be taking those steps, right? And so, and then I think the other piece of this that is really great just for everyone to be able to hear is that like there are just some unsexy aspects of being an entrepreneur. Like, yes, there's risks. I'm going to get a one-way ticket to California and then I'm going to pound the phones. Like this is not the glorious, aspects of it. And I think that's a piece that often gets overlooked.
Well, and people get, okay, maybe you had to just get yourself out there and you happen to get this right connection. But they don't get the time selling hats online, which is a really difficult business, terrible business to be in, to be very clear. That was really important in order to get the next step to the next step. And so one thing I like to encourage people is if you want to be an entrepreneur, don't wait till you're out of college and you've got student loans to pay back and You got deeper relationships, or you go and you get married, and you got to start early, start in high school, start in college, so you can get your reps in, and you can go do your hat business equivalent. Get that out of your system before you go and graduate.
Yeah, great advice. So fast forward, you go through that process you described. You eventually, you take Answers private, you build it back up, you sell it for almost $1 billion, rounding error, right? Like I like to round
a corn. It wasn't a unicorn, but it was round a corn.
Right, round a corn, like that, which is obviously a huge feat, right? Again, I use the analogy earlier. That's the equivalent of like winning 3 in a row, right? From that standpoint. So I'm curious. So you get this, and we don't have to go into specifics, but when you sell a business for that amount, there is life-changing impacts of that portion of it. And so when all the dust settles, the funds are in the bank, and you've the excitement sort of is worn off. Like, walk me through how are you feeling about life in general at that point?
Yeah. So after selling Answers, taking some time off, it was actually one of the kind of dark nights of the soul. I had done well financially, was happy about that. Obviously no complaints. Like, if I never worked another day, I lived a full career sort of thing. But I realized a couple of things. One, the only Michael Jordan comparison I will cop to is that my time at home was about as successful as his baseball career. Because my wife was like, David, when you're at home, you have all these ideas for how the home should be run, and they conflict with her ideas, and we all know who was going to win there. So that was one thing. But the second thing, though, something I learned about myself that I didn't quite realize was that I played team sports in high school, but I started late. I didn't start playing basketball until late 8th grade. I didn't start playing volleyball until freshman year. And so I didn't have all the reps to be a great athlete, and probably didn't have the full discipline to do it either. But I realized why I liked team sports so much. Is that I liked being on a team. I liked competing. I liked having goals. I liked working as a group toward trying to accomplish something. And for the first time in a long time, after 10 plus years at Answers, I was kind of teamless. I didn't have a team. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a ring to chase or playoffs to work through. And I didn't want to make that the number one or the most important thing, because I don't think that's good either. But I realized like I like to be on a team. I like to be competing. And so when I was thinking about, do I retire, or do I go and build something? I'm like, no, I think I've got another run in me, and I want to be building a team. The other thing is that I have a real passion to see people use their gifts and their talents. You had sent over some questions earlier and asked me, like, David, what really matters? And for me, I love to see people working out of their best. And I don't really even care what the field is. I don't care if it's music. I don't care if it's art, sports, business. I mean, people love to see people working at the top of their game, like whatever it is. And so I kind of had that seed of like, okay, what if for my next company, it could be something that really helps people do their best work. So that was kind of floating around. Then I had my long laundry list of ideas, and, I probably had 50 ideas. 47 of them were terrible. A couple of them were decent, but this was like it's like a rock in my shoe. Like I just couldn't keep walking and leave it in there. Like I had to get it out. Another kind of organizing framework I saw from Jeff Bezos is they asked him early on, they were like, Jeff, why'd you start Amazon? And he goes through this whole thing on how he's like, if he starts Amazon and this e-commerce thing takes off, he's like, I think we got a real shot. Build something. If he starts Amazon and this e-commerce thing fails as a category, well, he's going to learn something. He's going to get by pretty well. If he doesn't start Amazon and e-commerce never goes anywhere, well, it's kind of the null case, right? But if he doesn't start Amazon and e-commerce takes off like he thinks it will,
Yeah.
he's going to regret it the rest of his life. And so I looked at this very similarly, where I was like, if I don't start capacity and this AI category takes off, man, I'm going to regret it, because I think it's going to be not just a page turn or a chapter turn, but a fundamental rewriting of our entire economy. And so between this wanting to do something in the software space, desire to see teams do their best work, this kind of regret minimization, and then my wife wanted me to get out of the house, and a lot of prayer. That was kind of all those things combined to say, hey, let's go get back in the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So that's that. I love hearing that story. I remember you and I actually having some conversations during that point. I remember sitting by your pool and having some conversations, just checking in on you, see how you were doing. And what I remember was, and this again, I wish I could remember how long ago this was, but I remember you mentioning like you got a couple ideas, but that you were specifically like, I'm thinking about a few things, but whatever it is, it's going to be in this AI space, right?
Yeah.
And this was long before it's the talk of the town as it is right now. So I'm curious about, what were you seeing back then that had you so convinced that like, I got to figure this out, but this is the lane that I want to swim in?
Yeah. One thing that I've learned is that if you can get into a space early, you can make a ton of mistakes and still probably do okay. You get to a space late, you have to execute flawlessly in order for something to work out. And so I like to be in spaces on the earlier side. The Christmas time of 2016, the top selling item on Amazon wasn't a book or a video game or a toy. It was Amazon's Alexa. And so it was the first time in the world where the top selling product was an AI. And so I kind of looked at that and I was like, wow, this AI is not even that good yet. But I think this is indicative of where we're going to go. Usually things start in the consumer world, then they go to the business world, then they go to education, nonprofits, and then they go to government. Typically it goes through those 4 cycles. And so I was like, if this is the top selling consumer product, I think this technology is going to have an even bigger impact on the world of work. The other thing that I liked about it too was that specifically for automating, because we're in the world of automating support, is that you don't have to, back to my sports analogy, you don't have to bat 1,000 to have a real impact. So I talk a lot about how there are projects that are salad projects and brownie projects. So salad projects, I make a homemade Caesar style salad, and it's really good. I don't know if I don't know if you and Sabrina have had it yet, but next time you come over, I will make the salad for you guys.
Sounds good.
So I've cut the fresh garlic. I do anchovies. I have like stone ground mustard. I do like a fresh cracked pepper. Got my own cheese. I make my own croutons. It is amazing. Change your life.
Croutons. Okay.
Change your life salad.
That's commitment.
Okay? It's the real deal. Right? But you could take any one ingredient out of that salad, and it's still pretty good. You obviously can't take out the lettuce, but excluding the lettuce, take out pretty much anything. It's still going to be pretty good. Maybe not 100%, maybe it's 80 or 90%. I think a lot of projects are like salad projects where you can deliver 80 or 90% and get 80 or 90% of the value. But then there are some projects that are more like when my kids make brownies, where if they miss one ingredient, it's not like 90% is good.
Right.
The brownies are in the trash.
Right.
Like it's literally inedible. Yeah. Right. And so the thing I liked about using AI for automating support was that it was a category where I think it could be kind of a salad project rather than a brownie project, because even if we could help automate 30, 40, 50% early on, and then eventually 70, 80, 90% over time, you can still get a lot of value out of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you think about like where AI is right now, like what are you most excited about and what are you most concerned about?
Yeah. I think if I look at 99% of people's interactions with AI today, it's starting with a person putting in some kind of inquiry into a prompt
Mm-hmm.
and it coming back with some kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's going away. But I think when the AI comes back to you proactively before you ask it to do anything,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we're going to get a big unlock. And so, in the same way that if you think of all technology as a proxy for labor, you think of automation is a proxy for kind of physical labor.
Mm-hmm.
You think of AI as a proxy for cognitive labor.
Mm-hmm.
You think of generative AI as a proxy for creative labor.
Mm-hmm.
If you put physical labor, cognitive labor, creative labor together, you start to get a proxy for labor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Up until now, most AI interactions are still human initiated.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we get to the point to where, and we're starting to get there now,
Mm-hmm.
where the AI systems are coming back to you proactively, it's going to completely unlock and change the way that we work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what about anything in that process is like concerning for you, if anything?
I think we're going to have an explosion of software. There's going to be more software than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, security is going to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I've already had people try to clone my voice and do phishing attacks over WhatsApp. So we acquired a company out of Spain, and then they're like, "Hey, David, did you want us to spend money on this conference?" I was like, "What conference?"
What conference, right?
They played me back the WhatsApp message. It sounded exactly like me. I actually played it for my wife. She actually liked the digital version better than the real thing, but that's neither here nor there. And so like there's going to be a big security aspect of this new world. I also think there are going to be people kind of caught in the middle, in between the human-centric labor force to an AI agent-centric labor force that are going to have to rescale pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so how we deal with that as a society is probably going to be one of the biggest pressing issues of the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, some of this is asking you to answer a question that everyone is trying to answer, right? We've never been at this place before. And even if there were other proxies that we could use to try to help us forecast more, even those estimates are always off. And so that's a question it's a tough one to answer. But we have a lot of folks that listen to the podcast, and they sort of range in age. Like we have everything from, parents of players or, folks that are in their 40s and their mid careers, all the way down to young Gen Z athletes and folks of that like who are, at different stages. And so everyone some of us are thinking about AI and the impact at different levels. I guess I would love to start with like the younger generation. So if I'm a 20-year-old and I am in college, right, and there was this traditional path that everyone sort of espoused to, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, where you go to high school, go to college, so on and so forth. You get a degree from a prestigious university, and you can kind of sort of like chart your path in some particular ways. I guess my question would be for you, given what AI is rapidly learning, like what do you think what advice would you give to a 20-year-old? What should they be learning? What should they be spending their time doing to be prepared for the world to come?
Yeah. So when I think about the history of computing, I think about it in terms of abstraction layers away from zeros and ones. So David, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. So my dad was an electrical engineer. I can remember he actually had physical switches on machines. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then that got replaced by binary code. And then that got replaced by assembly code. And assembly code, I have a computer science degree, but if you gave me assembly code, you might as well give me Greek. Like it's really hard to read, but it was orders of magnitude easier than binary code. Mm-hmm. And then people came up with higher order languages like C++, which again, is not the easiest to deal with, but order of magnitude easier than assembly code. Mm-hmm. And then you get to higher order languages like JavaScript and HTML, where now a lot more people can code and build things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, with AI in the forefront, the language is kind of irrelevant. Mm-hmm. It's just, can you tell the AI what you want it to build?
Right.
And so there is an order of magnitude number of people merging who can now build software.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing I would say is, in a world where anyone has the tools and capabilities to build software, and a world where more and more of our world is becoming digital,
Mm-hmm.
if you're young, you have to learn how to use this technology to go build things, not just answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everyone needs to be a card-carrying software developer all the time, but if you've got, if you're on a corporate development team and you want to go look at 1,000 documents, you should be able to tell the AI how to go build and process that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to launch, my handyman built an entire website with an AI. My handyman is like, hey, I figured I have to learn how to do this. And he's like, the AI built the whole website, helped me with the marketing plan, etc. And so the people who don't learn how to use this technology are most at risk to be replaced by this technology if the work you do is digital. Okay. Now, I think we're still a long way off before AI is going to replace a plumber or a carpenter or a HVAC guy or gal. So those, I think that will take a much longer time. But if your work is primarily digital, knowledge economy work, if you're not working with AIs to help improve what you do, you're probably going to get replaced.
Yeah. And so, and practically for an 18 or a 20-year-old, when you say learning to work with AIs, what does that mean? Flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah. So I have a nonprofit I helped start called Create a Loop, where we help teach computer science and AI to kids. And one of the courses that we have is like AI for kids. And it starts out where if you want to go build your first AI-driven website, what does that look like? Or you want to go build a game, what does that look like? I'll use an example in my own life. I am very worried that my wife is going to click on one of these phishing attack links. And so I had an AI build a little Chrome plugin called Fish Fry, where it goes through every page and it looks at each link to see if it's a typo squatting or some kind of bad hombre. And like, so you can't click on it. And I had the AI build the whole thing in, a couple of days. And I don't know if I'll turn it into a business or what, but like being able to create with this technology, don't wait till you're out in the workplace. Like start right now. I have a guy I work with who had an AI build all of his travel planning. Like they do all their vacation planning and it's all in an AI app now that they built. So it doesn't mean you have to go build some like life-changing over-the-top thing, but if you can use this technology to start building solutions for everyday problems, you're going to be in much better shape as this technology evolves.
And for someone we have people who are like deep down the rabbit trail with OpenClaw and all these wonderful things that are happening there, and other people that are like, I've heard about this AI stuff, and you've convinced me now, David, I need to actually like look into this. So what are some of the ways they can actually get started? You're just saying like, hey, download an app, start asking some questions. Like, how would you encourage people to get started? Yeah,
depending on your technical capability, some people are going to do better with courses. They're like, hey, give me an easy course. There are all sorts. There's one for business people. There's one for technical people. There's one for people who want to code. Other people don't want to. Just start like learning this stuff. I'm an experiential learner, so I like to learn by doing. So that Fish Fry app I made entirely with OpenClaw, downloaded it, installed it, just kept hacking away at it. I would recommend, one thing that was nice about that project is it's pretty simple and contained, and I could have a useful, workable product in a day or two. So pick something that has those features. Yeah. Don't like, if you're like, hey, I'm going to come in, I want to train an AI to rebuild the entire Microsoft Office suite. Like that's probably not going to happen in a day or two, but go find a small W win you can go do in your own life. It might be building a budget app. It might be making a Chrome plugin. It might be building a website, but go find a small W win area that this technology can go build in. And you're going to really open your eyes to what's possible.
Yeah. And what I love about this technology from just personal experience, you and I are wired similar. I started as an electrical engineer. You made it through the engineering school. I switched to the B school. But I love to learn by doing as well. But it really sort of accelerates the process you described earlier. When you described about answers like we did this and then that led to this and that led to this. This, from my experience, allows people to do the very same thing. Like you start asking some questions and unlock something else. And the next thing you know, you're like off in some other thing. But there's a lot of learning that actually happens as a result of it. And so I appreciate you answering that question, because I know for some of the listeners who are like brand new to this, they're like, I don't even know how to get started. And it sounds like in some ways, you know, they could download ChatGPT or Claude and just ask questions to start with and kind of get going from there.
Well, and on the other side, it's like, you know, don't come to me for investment advice, but personally, I'm putting a significant amount of my own net worth investing in AI related items because it's one of the fastest growing areas of the economy. Like the same way I got in the online advertising space when it was like this and it was going like this. AI, like we're in the second inning of AI. This is the dial up. This is like a 28K modem for those who were around long enough to know what that is. Dial up phase of AI. We're not in high speed internet here.
Right.
And so this is going to, in the same way we look back and we're like, remember when modems used to make funny noises and it took, 4 hours to download a 40-second dunk video from the 90s? We're very much in that place today.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think this is an important conversation to have, and there's a lot of people talking about this as well. But I think also a unique perspective that you bring is that you are like, immersed in all things AI automation business and doing so at the highest level. But also something that makes you different is that you bring a faith element, a faith component to this. And I hesitate to describe it as a component because for those of us that are actually in the faith, we know it's much larger. It's really who we are.
It's bedrock.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so I'm curious about like, when you think about decision making or caring for people, like where does your beliefs, your faith, where do those show up in a way that changes how you maybe process or decide something that might be different than somebody who doesn't take the same, espouse to the same beliefs?
Yeah. So I'm doing a study this year on the Sermon on the Mount. And the thing about the Sermon on the Mount that was, I think we kind of lose sight of this today, but it was a radical reimagining of what the best and highest moral standards were at that time. So best and highest moral standards was eye for an eye instead of go and burn down your enemy's village. And Jesus is like, love your enemy. Or don't commit adultery was the highest standard. And he's like, don't look at a woman lustfully. Or, you can go on, right? And so I've been asking myself, what does it look like to live out this ethos that goes well beyond, following a couple of rules or trying to do the right thing here or there? And I'll give an example that I'm not at all perfect in, but I can tell a difference between. So I can go into a sales meeting, confident, competitive, pushing to try to land that client. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. Like I think people are wired to do that and we should do that. But I could also go into that same meeting kind of open-handed and say, Lord, how can I help this company? Like, please show me, open up to me how I can help, how I can be a help, how I can actually help them accomplish their goals. And if I'm not the right person or we're not the right company to do that, don't treat that as a closed loss on the Salesforce list, although it might be.
Right.
But say, hey, you know what? They're going to find somebody who can actually help them and help me focus my time on the people that I can actually help. And so you might get the same result or you might get a very similar result, but there's a very different heart attitude toward I'm here just to land the sale and move on versus I'm here to truly help this team go do its best work. And so in my best of days, I'm in this category. On my average days, I'm competitive sports player. So I think that's just a really practical example of same situation, what is the heart posture toward what you're trying to go accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful because you're absolutely right that perspective can mean all the difference, right? I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to shrink back from being how he wired you to be, right? Competitive, confident. In some ways, I think when we're in the best of the scenario, like I can make the argument that we actually should be even more confident, right? Because when you walk in that like, if God is for me, who can be against me? What he actually has for me is for me. That gives you sort of the freedom to be able to like serve and care about the other participant and not trying to force something that you know. And so I think that's pretty powerful to be able to hear that, given the fact that the stakes are real high, right? It's still very high, right? Because you're in a competitive space, right? Like, it's funny. I meant to mention this earlier. Like, of all the places that you could have come back to, it seems like you are a glutton for choosing some of the toughest areas to.
I apparently really like hard mode.
Right.
Hard mode all the time.
Because again, when you're in and you're having that sales call, real numbers you have, you got investors, all the implications of that portion of it, and to be able to, to not lean into the fear or anything else that actually could drive that, but to say and pause and like you mentioned and say like, okay, Lord, what's for you? What you have for me is for me. And I'm going to operate that way. I think is pretty powerful. So
thank you.
That's great. Great to hear, man. So a couple other questions, then I'm going to get you out of here. So you've had a lot of success, right? But I see you kind of walk throughout life in a way where it's not like, hey, come look at me, look at all the wonderful things that I've done. And I got to tell you, that is not very common for people who have actually accomplished the things that you've accomplished. And so for you, like given that there are people who may look to your story and say, man, I look up to him. There's a lot of attention that comes. Like, what do you think have been the things that have kept you grounded from not becoming the person who it's all about money? It's all about David. It's all about me taking the next hill. I'm going to step on whoever I need to step on to ultimately get there, to being a person who actually is approaching life and business the way you are.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. I really try to be the same person everywhere. So like, yeah, for better or for worse, and what you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to have one conversation with you and then go talk with somebody else and have a completely separate view or completely separate approach to things. And so I think there is a, people talk about integrity in terms of like not lying or not cheating or not stealing. And I think that's all true. But there's this integrity of being the same person mm-hmm. in all scenarios. So I think that's part of it. I also think the older I get, I just don't need to impress anyone. Mm-hmm. Like it's just it's not my thing. Like I don't know. I have a couple people, my wife, my best friend, my kids, whose opinions I really care about. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's kind of like, it's kind of up for
take it or leave it. Right?
Take it or leave it. So, so I think that's part of it too. And then, like you said, I think 98% is a lot of what you've been given. And then 2% is how you play the poker hand. And so it would, people talk about people born on third base. I think there are people born a couple feet away from from
home plate.
From home plate. And so I can't puff myself up in any of those types of situations.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this is the Make It Matter podcast. Like when you hear the phrase make it matter, what does that mean to you in life and the way that you build and lead?
When I think about the word matter, I think about things that have substance. I think about things that have weight. I think about things that are important. It's an interesting word because it has a physical connotation. Mm-hmm. Everything is made of matter. You can measure matter. But there's also a more of an abstract, mm-hmm. Oh, does this matter? Does this idea matter? Does mm-hmm. this concept matter? So it's a very good word. For me, I think if you look at the purpose of anything, the purpose of any one thing is to live out however that thing was designed by whoever designed it. So I can sit in a kitchen chair, and the purpose of the chair is to be sat in. I could stand on it. I could put it at a bar stool or bar height, but it's not gonna right. It's meant to be sat at a kitchen table. Conversely, I could take the bar stool and I could bring it over to the kitchen table and I could sit in it, but it's not going to be the right height. And those things were designed. Bar stool didn't just jump out of the furniture store arranged in a certain way. Like it was specifically made for a certain type of activity. I think there's a passage in the New Testament about believers being part of a body, and there's like different roles in the body, and you don't want the hand to be like an eye or a foot to think it's a liver or this is my interpretation here. But I think when people are using their gifts and their talents and their longings and their desires and their hopes and their dreams and the way that they're wired in a way that aligns with their design, they tend to do really well. And so I think part of what matters is seeing people unlock how they were designed. And some of the design might be how they were, how they came out of the womb. Some of it's their life circumstances, some of the stuff that they're choosing, some of it's the environment and society that they're in. But I love to see people do their best work. I love to see people use their gifts and talents to kind of, Steve Jobs put a dent in the universe. And so I think what matters is setting up people to be able to do that in the best way possible.
Yeah. Listen, I agree 100%. I think that's a beautiful definition of what it means to make it matter. And it's clear, man, that God has used you in a mighty way to create spaces for people to be able to do that.
Thank you.
In a lot of places, man. So I thank you for making time today, man, and be praying that God continues to use you in a great way to make it matter.
Thanks for having me here.